All right, today I'm going to talk to you guys about how to create a balloon boat in Tinkercad. So just like you had to do before, we're going to title this, and I didn't put it in there, but you're going to put your name, the object, which is balloon boat, and then the color, and I would like my balloon boat to be red. So as you can see, I've already got a model here developed, and I'm actually going to try to show you guys how I went about building this model. Now I'll tell you from my experience, this model, pretty good, probably going to wind up tipping over because of just the way these boats print, but not too bad. Let me show you how to make a boat like this, and then I'll actually talk to you guys through what I would recommend as like your best type of boat to print. So to begin with, we're going to bring in an object here, and we probably want to bring in this boat hull. Now you can use the boat hull. You don't have to use the boat hull, but you can use the boat hull. That object to find, you're going to click on Tinkercad where it says basic shapes here. Scroll down to where it says shape generator and choose all. This basically gives you a whole bunch of other shapes you can use. And I've done this long enough to know that shape that we're looking for, this boat hull, is on page 13. So if you move forward to page 13, you'll find the boat hull right here. So again, page 13, here's the boat hull. Click on the hull, bring in the hull. So that gives us our boat hull. Nice boat shape, pointy in the front. And if we were just to put the air pipes right onto it, like you can see that I've got here. Actually, let me ungroup this real quick, and I'll move this over so you can see what I have. So if we were to put this type of a mechanism right onto it, that would be fine, and it would work. But there's runs a chance of this boat tipping over just because the hull is pretty narrow. So you can, here's one example. You can make this hull a bit wider. So maybe instead of 20, maybe we go 40 millimeters wide. You do run the risk of getting too wide and your boat not really floating well, but this is your first balloon boat, so we're just going to test them out and see what happens. So I'm going to move my balloon boat's hull to 40, and my balloon boat is actually pretty long. Doesn't need to be quite this long, so we're going to bring that back down a bit. We're going to bring this down to 120. So the length of the boat I'm going to have is going to be 120, and the width of the boat is going to be 40. All right, next, I have to bring in a plumbing or a piece of pipe here to allow me to be able to put air from a balloon down through and out the back of this boat. So how am I going to do that? Well, if I go back to shape generators, I can click on basic shapes. And if I go back up here, I like to use a cylinder, a round shape. Remember, I can dial this up so that it's a nice round smooth cylinder. And I've found that usually 4 or 5 or maybe even 6, I'm going to go 6, 6 millimeter diameter cylinder will work pretty good because the interior, you don't want to go too small for your inside pipe because the inside, if it gets too small, it's going to be too hard for air to pass through. So I usually go around 4 or maybe 5 millimeters for that inside pipe. So to make the inside pipe, I'm actually going to duplicate the cylinder that I have over here by clicking on the duplicate button. And I'm going to resize it down to 4 millimeters by 4 millimeters. I'm also going to make that pipe a hole. So by clicking on the hole feature, I can then select both objects. On an iPad, you're going to tap on both objects. And I'm going to do this center align. So I'll align center, align center. Now, if I were to group this, you would see that I have created a pipe. It's open, hollow, air can go through it. It's going to be great. The only thing about it is I need to actually make this a bit longer. So I'm actually going to raise this up, and let's go maybe 60 millimeters. That looks like it should be pretty close. I'm going to lay this back down on its side 90 degrees. I can grab this little black cone that's up here to drop it down a little lower. I do want it pretty close to the bottom, maybe 2 millimeters off of the bed. That way it's blowing air out really kind of very low. And I'm going to move this into my boat. All right, I want to align them, so I'm going to select both objects, and I'm going to do a center align. So now I've got a spot where air can come out of the back bottom of my boat. Now I will notice that the boat hull is in the way of my airflow, so I have to actually select the pipe that I've made here, ungroup that pipe, and then select the pipe, the hole and the boat and regroup it. And now that hole is going to go further into the boat. Hopefully you can see that in the shot I've got here. So that hole is going to go a good long ways into the boat. All right. Next, I need to bring in a place where air can come into the pipe system. And I'm going to do that with another cylinder. Remember, we use the work plane to put a cylinder on top of a face. So I'm going to click on work plane again, and then I'm going to put this cylinder on top of my boat. Bring the cylinder in. I usually like to keep the cylinder kind of near the front. You can move it near the back or even put it right in the middle, whatever you want to do. I like to kind of keep it near the front a little. I also make it nice and smooth and round on all sides. And I'm going to align this with the rest of the boat. So I do a center align. All right, I can turn my work plane off now because I've got this central pipe set. And I do actually need air to go through, so I need to put a hole in here. So I'm going to grab another cylinder. Actually, what I'll do is I'm going to duplicate the cylinder I have already. Let's do that instead. Just like we did before, we'll duplicate this cylinder. We'll make this one a little bigger. Maybe we'll go 6 by 6. And I'll make it a hole. And now I'm going to move this and try to get it basically into the center of the cylinder, because I'm going to do a center align with everything else to get it in the middle of everything. Now, if I grouped this simple interior cylinder here, you can see that it only goes down a certain ways. It only goes this far down. And I actually need to get it all the way down to here. So I'm going to actually, I can either make it really tall by dragging up here, and then I can grab the cone and shove it down into the bed. Remember, our other pipe we had 2 millimeters off the bed. The pipe itself is 2 millimeters thick, so we want this probably around 4 millimeters off the bed. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. All right, I'm going to actually move mine back just so it's more centered. And now if I highlight everything here and group it, I should have a pipe that goes all the way through my boat. So air can go down in through the top and travel through the plumbing and out the back. Well, how do we look inside? Here's a little trick that I've used to help me look inside. If you click on the boat itself and click on the word hole, it will make the boat hollow. And if you look here, you can see this is good. Air is going to be able to travel down this pipe and then out the back pipe. Now I could, and I think I'm going to, I could bring it down probably 1 more millimeter to make it connect really well. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to make it solid again. And then I'm going to ungroup it by clicking on the square circle shape. And I'll click on my little centerpiece here, and I'm going to bring it down 1 more millimeter. So it's 3 millimeters off the bed. Highlight everything, regroup everything, make it a hole, take a look, and ooh, that's fantastic. So I love how it perfectly matches, and it's going to perfectly line up with the plumbings. Now, before I print any of your boats, I'm going to be doing this kind of stuff. I'm going to be taking a look at it and just verifying that your plumbing is good. So if you need some help with that plumbing piece, let me know. Otherwise, this will be the final boat. Now, this is just one example of a boat you can make. I'm going to move this boat over a bit, make myself a little more space. You could, if you wanted, do a double hulled boat. So let me show you what a double hull boat would look like. Just like before, I'm going to skip all the way ahead to page 13 of the All Shapes tab. I'm going to bring in a hull. I'm going to keep it narrow, but I'm going to make it shorter again. 120 is probably a good length. But I'm going to actually double this hull. So I'm going to duplicate it, clicking on the duplicate button. And then I'm going to move it over. So I've got 2 of them next to each other. Ooh, kind of like a pontoon boat. All right. Now, just like I did before, I'm going to need to put some plumbing in here. And so I need a way to connect these two. So I'm going to go back into my basic shapes, and I am going to grab a box. And let me move this over so you can see what I'm working with. I'm going to make this box shorter, maybe 2 millimeters. I'm going to raise this box up so that is level with the tops of the pontoons. And that's going to be the connecting piece that's going to hold my 2 pontoons together. And then just like I did before, I'm going to go ahead and create the plumbing for the boat, for the way the water is going to, or I'm sorry, the air is going to flow. So I'll make my outside cylinder 6 on the outside, and I'm going to make the sides really smooth by swinging this all the way up to 64. I'll make it a little bit longer. It doesn't need to be quite so long. Then I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to make the inside tube 4 millimeters by 4 millimeters. Again, if you need to pause the video for anything, you can certainly do that. I will align these, center align, center align. Oh, I forgot to make that inside one a hollow, so I'll make it a hole. And now I've got my pipe. And I actually want to duplicate this pipe because I'm going to use one of them for the tailpipe. It's going to come out the back where the air is going to actually flow. So I'm going to set this at 90 degrees and drop it down a little lower, maybe again 4 or 5 millimeters off the bed. Okay. All right, now I'm going to also need to move this forward so it's lined up underneath this red mark. Now, actually, I want to group a couple of things so I can do some more work. So I'm actually going to highlight the 2 pontoons and the red box. Just the 2 pontoons and the red box. Nope, I got too many shapes there. Try that again. 2 pontoons and the red box. And if I group those things, then I can actually do an alignment here and get the pipe center aligned with the pontoons. There we go. All right, next, remember I kept part of this because I'm going to need this. And I've got my pipe about 5 off the bottom. So I'm going to move this in here like so. And I'll do another center align like that. And if I zoom in, I might need to do a little bit of fixing here for this one part because I don't want any air to leak out. So I'm going to be taking a look at this spot where these two join. And yeah, it looks like I need to bring the outside cylinder down just a little. So I'm going to click off of my objects, click just the outside cylinder, and drop it down 1 millimeter. I zoom back in. All right, looks like everything's touching. That looks really good, actually. All right, then last but not least, I need to put a regular big old cylinder on top. Whoops, remember I want to grab a work plane, put that work plane on top, and bring in a cylinder to set on top for the air to go into. Smooth sides. I'm going to align everything so it's all centered. And I can probably make this interior hole a little bigger. Let me get rid of my work plane again here. So I can make this interior hole just a little bit bigger. So let's go maybe go 6 by 6. Okay, I'll do a center align again. Wow. And if I group it, if I did everything right, I should have a hole that goes right through here and ends at the top. A big cylinder to put the balloon on. Now, some of you might be shrinking your cylinders down. You really do want this cylinder to be probably 20 millimeters diameter because the balloons are about that big. And now if I make this whole object hollow, make it a hole, just to take a look, I should be able to see it's going to work out pretty good. Got a hole going through there. Uh-oh, I've got a small problem. There's going to be a leak right here. And I can see that because there's nothing on the back side. So I need to fix that. So I'm going to go back into the object, going to ungroup it again, and yeah, I can see the problem right there. So this cylinder right here, let me make it a different color for you. I'll make it red. This cylinder right here is not wide enough. Remember I made that hole inside bigger? So I'm going to actually not make that hole bigger. I'm just going to keep it at 4 by 4. 4, 4. Okay. Now if I center line everything again, that should have fixed the problem. Group it, make it a hole, and that's much better. So I've got a hole inside, plastic on the outside. That should print out just fine. All right, make it solid. So that's two examples of boats. Again, you don't have to make your boats exactly like these boats. You can make them however you like. But I'm just giving you some examples that you can look at for different boats. If you want to put your name on the boat on top, if you want to add some objects to it, totally fine. But the general idea here is you're going to want to have somewhere that the balloon can attach, somewhere that the air can flow and push air out the back of the boat. Okay, so that is the balloon boat example. Today at our Google Meet, we'll chat about the balloon boat, and we'll probably spend a little time tomorrow talking about these as well. So hopefully that worked out for you. Good luck.